Hello, my name is Nick Zangl. Welcome to my channel where I comment on social, political, and cultural topics. If that's anything that's of interest to you, make sure to subscribe to this channel wherever you are watching. So in today's video, which I've been trying to film for a week because I actually stumbled across this topic from Radiant Brit, who's here on YouTube. I found her through the Katie Joy situation that I talked about on here, and she was the first one that I saw this pop up in my subscription box when I came back home from Thanksgiving last week, and then lots have happened this past week, which not an excuse that I didn't film, but now I'm here, I'm filming, and I was gonna wait a few more seconds because I have laundry going and whatnot, but it's almost done, so whatever. I was like, let's just do this. But the topic is Dr. Mike, his maskless birthday party on a boat in Miami, Florida, in the United States, and the fallout that has come from that. So Dr. Mike, if you didn't know, he is a YouTuber who happens to be a doctor, and on his YouTube channel, I wouldn't say he gives medical advice, but he talks about popular, trending, newsworthy topics regarding the health and medical field from his perspective as what we know as a medical doctor. So that's his background on what he covers on his channel. So you're probably connecting the dots on where I'm going here, but I have a few thoughts on why a medical doctor who has a YouTube channel where he talks about medical stuff having a maskless party in Miami is a problem. And if you've been watching my channel for this year, since the beginning, I've been very skeptical of the whole COVID-19 narrative that is being pushed in the mainstream media, and especially as people who are dissenting from the mainstream narrative or the agenda that's being pushed from what we see, then being censored, I get even more skeptical. And Dr. Mike, from the beginning of this, has been the one to be parroting a lot of what Dr. Fauci, who has been a very prominent figure in this whole coronavirus pandemic response, and the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control here in the United States, also the World Health Organization, the WHO, and he has been very, very supportive and very loyal to what they are advising people to do, which as a medical doctor, I think should be, and that's kind of what he needs to do to keep his license or whatever the case may be. However, now that he's in this situation where he has been caught basically doing the opposite of what he's been preaching on his YouTube channel, and I'm guessing to his patients what to do in response to this pandemic and what he thinks is responsible behavior, this is where the problem comes up. So I want to talk about that right now. So the main problem actually is, one, he got caught, and two, his apology video that he released on YouTube. So there's a whole bunch of parts to this that are problematic. So one, in the apology video itself, he basically alluded to the fact that he feels bad that his actions are giving less credibility to what he's been preaching, and all that information that's coming from these public health agencies that he's been parroting what they've been saying, and by him breaking those rules, basically, he is lending less credibility to those things that he wants people to follow. He said, basically, attack me, don't attack the CDC or the World Health Organization, and as much as that would make this whole situation a lot easier for him and for them, that's just not the case here, and it's because he has been preaching this so consistently and so urgently to people that is the problem. And unfortunately, when you lose credibility, everyone you're associated with or are very loyal to lose credibility too. So one, it highlights this whole thing as do as I say, not as I do, which has been a very common theme that I've been touching on with the Katie Joy situation, which is a YouTube social media thing, with politicians from all across the board, from whatever side, being caught doing similar things to Dr. Mike, whether it's eating indoors when they're advising people to not eat indoors, not wearing a mask when they're advising people to wear a mask, meeting in big groups when they're telling people they can't meet in big groups, especially with Thanksgiving. They told people, at least here in California, that we can't have more than 3 households meeting together, and a certain number of people can't meet together. But then our governor, who created those rules, was out to dinner at a very fancy restaurant, eating inside, being very loud from what reports have said, with at least what I saw 4 couples, so at least 8 people, and it turned out to be more, not wearing masks, sitting at a normal table, and it turned out to be medical advisors to the governor at that meeting, the ones who are creating the rules for these doctors like Mike and others in California, breaking their own rules. So this is another example of that. And it sucks. I'm going to be honest. I hate even having to talk about this because I wish they would follow their own rules. But this is why I've been skeptical from the very beginning, because logically it just doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying that I had some crystal ball, for pun intended, or magical like foresight into this, but just from a logical perspective, not as a health professional, just from putting different pieces together and realizing there's something wrong here. I mean, I don't want to say I was right, but I kind of predicted this back in, I think it was April, just from observing and being like, okay, something's not adding up here. So the other part that's wrong with his apology video has been what's wrong with a lot of apology videos as of late from a lot of these politicians, which is that when they are doing these apology videos, they seem very scripted. They don't seem very sincere, and it's almost as if they don't even care that they're only apologizing because they got caught. One, they're not really that sorry, because if you were that sorry, you wouldn't have been doing it, and you would have fessed up before you got caught. One. Two, it almost feels like they're trying not to laugh, and that they're almost throwing it in our faces that they are in such a position where they can break their own rules and not really have the same consequences as the people that they are preaching to follow these rules. And so it's almost like one person if you want to look it up, look up Governor Gavin Newsom's of California, his apology video for getting caught at the French Laundry, which is the restaurant that he was dining at, breaking these rules prior to Thanksgiving. It's almost like he has this smirk on his face, like he's trying to contain his joy that he's able to get away with this, or that he was caught, and is throwing it in our faces that he's able to break these rules, and even though he got caught, he's probably not going to suffer that many consequences from it. And just all these people, they're just like laughing in our faces that all of us peasants have to follow these rules, which, by the way, I'm not following most of them. I'm being as reasonable with the precautions I'm taking as I possibly can without completely upending my entire life, which I think is what people should do. They should take reasonable measures, but you can't just completely destroy your entire livelihood for this one virus if it means all these other things bad things are gonna come out of it and whatnot. So anyways, that's my preach 2 cents. But they're almost like they're throwing it in our face, and so that's kind of my 2 cents on the apology video itself. Now, one argument before I get into another problem with the apology video regarding kind of where it was posted, is I put a note here when I was thinking about what's the problem here, and maybe it's not as bad as I think it is, because who cares what he does in his private life, right? I don't want people knowing what I do, or I don't want people having to say in what I do in my private life. That's why I've been advocating for people to choose how they respond to the pandemic, even with all the guidance and recommendations out there. At the end of the day, you are a private citizen, you are a sovereign being, and you can decide for yourself what you think is right and what you think is wrong, as long as you're not infringing on other people's rights to decide what they think is right and wrong. That's kind of the line I draw. And so why do I care what he's doing in his private life, right? And to me, it goes back to the argument of integrity and character. And I don't want to character assassinate him, but it does cut into his integrity with the public, maybe with his patients too, by seeing how he's acting outside of work. Now, I understand that people make mistakes, and integrity is basically what do you do when no one's looking? Are you doing what you would do if someone was looking, or are you doing the opposite, meaning you're putting on a facade in front of everyone else, but when no one's looking, you're kind of cheating or doing something else? And I learned this in high school when I was going to leadership camp, as I was being a drum major in high school in my marching band. And this was like a whole topic during the day, was integrity, and how once you kind of lose some of your integrity, it's very hard to get it back, and maybe you will never get it back. And how you only really have so much of it before you get to a point where it's irreversible and you've done permanent damage to your integrity, which could affect a lot of different parts of your life. And so that's what I thought of when I thought of this Dr. Mike situation. And to me, it'd be one thing if he wasn't advocating so strongly, and I don't want to say blindly, but just parroting the words of the CDC, World Health Organization, Dr. Fauci, whatnot. It'd be one thing if he's been questioning it the whole time and saying, we don't know, I think I'm leaning more towards believing these people, but there's also these other things that really question and kind of counter what they're saying. So I'm not going to give you a definitive one way or the other, but I want to present you with both sides and let you decide kind of what you feel is best for yourself. That would be one thing. And I don't think this situation would be bad at all if that was what was really happening. Or maybe the worst thing would be that it was too many people, not necessarily that he wasn't wearing a mask. But he didn't do that. He's been preaching basically this utopic, or not utopic, but this kind of alarmist, urgent message to people, or else. But then he went and did the complete opposite in his private time. To me, this is kind of that the good and the bad of social media is, one, everyone is kind of being watched now. We have so many cameras. I think I heard on the radio the other day that by the end of 2021, there will be enough security cameras in the world regarding whether it's Ring doorbells or businesses or public places, or I'm not sure if they considered cell phones or either, but I think it would be more if they considered cell phones. That there will be one security camera for every 4 people in the United States. And so the odds of you getting caught doing something you're not supposed to be doing, or that's contrary to what you've been preaching in this case, is very good. So this is why it's a good thing that we have this technology now for social media, because people can make a different kind of living, they can get their message out there more, but also it's holding these people more accountable and everyone more accountable for the actions that they do have. So this is a perfect example of that. He has become very prominent and very influential on YouTube, and in general, I'm guessing in the whole medical field in general, because I feel like he's probably getting a lot more like speaking engagement opportunities, at least before the pandemic, and able to do a lot more things career-wise and have a little more influence. But now that whole thing he's built is probably gonna crumble down pretty fast if people are kind of really looking out and really taking a look at this situation and seeing it for what it is, unless there's a whole bunch of people like him in the field, and in that case, that's even more concerning, but that's a whole nother topic. And to me, this is kind of go back to the seeing both sides, and if Dr. Mike was on one side, but he wasn't really sharing the other because he wanted to preach whatever this was without being kind of in the middle, and that's why he's in this situation where he's in trouble. This is why I don't think we should be mandated to do anything regarding our personal health. And especially with our bodies, and especially with anything new that's come out, that there's still a debate on what's going on, if that debate is even allowed to happen. The problem now is that any dissenting voices from the mainstream narrative are getting silenced and censored, which is a whole other problem in itself, and it should scare everybody, because I think we all have the right to question things, be critical, consider the opposite or a different viewpoint, and then try to find reasoning to debunk it or to confirm it, and vice versa, whatnot. I think that is all a good thing. The mandate is the problem, because if we are all just going on with this one narrative without really questioning it too far, we could have even more detrimental results to whatever that is if we find out some new information about it, which is what we've been learning the past few months. And if you look back at the beginning of this year regarding this virus, just from a layman's general public perception, and you're being objective about it, you're not just having short-sighted, short-term memory loss, we've learned a lot that what we knew at the beginning maybe wasn't exactly true regarding a lot of things. And I don't need to get into specifics here, but you can look it up. And I think people like Dr. Mike and others want us to kind of easily forget what's happening. I think a lot of us don't really easily forget. And those are the people who are starting to get silenced now too, or the people who are not even trying to report something new. They're just saying, this is what you said before, and this is what you're saying now. And now that's a problem. Just like saying the truth, literally the truth, stuff that is recorded on video of you saying this at one point, and now you're saying this here. That's now being censored. That's the problem here. So if anything, I'm glad people are being exposed for who they are. And if you want to see it, you'll find it, you'll see it, get it shared with you, or you can share it with someone else. And if you don't, then you're just going to keep living under this, whatever we want to call this at this point. So I've been alluding to this whole time, and I'm finally going to get to it. I know some people get frustrated that I kind of go back and forth, but when I start talking, sometimes things come up in my brain that I didn't write down, so that's how we're going to do it. But problem with the apology video on where it was posted. So Dr. Mike has, last time I checked, was like 6 million subscribers on his main channel. That most people know him from that main channel. What a lot of people didn't realize is he has a second channel with like clips of him called Dr. Mike Clips that he doesn't post on very often, that has 60,000 subscribers. So his main channel has about 100 times more subscribers than his second channel. He opted to put that apology video on the second channel. A lot of people took this as him being a coward, him trying to address the situation without making it worse for his main fan base who maybe isn't aware of what's happening. But then I went to his main channel, and I looked in the comments, and all of his new videos, all the main comments are just people wanting him to address it on that channel. And really the only reason people found this apology video was because the apology video somehow got on YouTube's trending page, which from what I understand, YouTube trending is not necessarily things that are actually trending. A lot of times they are handpicked by YouTube, or allegedly people may pay to get their videos on YouTube trending. And I'm like, I wonder if that was a mistake, or maybe there is a portion of trending maybe at the bottom of the trending page and not towards the top that is actually algorithmically based, and it might actually, if it's not algorithmically based and they did choose to put it on trending, to me it just supports the argument that all these influential elites in the media and medical field are basically laughing in our faces and trying to usher in this new era of do as I say, not as I do, and that being the norm and not having any consequences if they did choose to put that on the YouTube trending page. Or they could just be making an example out of him, saying to basically keep in lockstep with us and be careful about what you do behind the scenes. I don't know. So we'll see what happens with this. If any major updates happen or anything else comes out of confirming or denying what I say, I'll consider making another video about this. But in the meantime, let me know what you think about this situation. Did you see what happened? Have you found any other people besides kind of the prominent leaders I've talked about being or contradicting their own rules? Let me know what you think about that. And does that give less credibility and less credence to the information being shared by medical professionals if there's these prominent ones that are breaking their own rules? Let me know in the comment section down below. I love to chat it up with you all. And like I said in the beginning of this video, if you like social, political, and cultural commentary and you want to hear my thoughts on things and join in on the conversation in the comment section, make sure to subscribe to this channel wherever you are watching. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Rumble as well, where I post these videos also. So if one day, like I said, I get censored and completely kicked off YouTube, and then you'll know where to find me. Get a Rumble account, and it's the same username, same graphics. So with that said, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.